Started?
Let's get
do it.
started.
Okay. Welcome, everybody, to Tech Talk Law. I just won $10. Thank you, Melissa.
Nice.
And thank you to our esteemed guest today, Miss Kimberly Cook from Chicago.
Yay.
We're going to be talking to Kim in a few minutes. Just to recap, for those of you who weren't with us a couple of weeks ago, we had our first webinar that time. We spoke about virtual mediation. We had some great feedback since that time. Our website has gone live, techtalklaw.com. We are in the process of already planning out. I think our next 2 or 3 webinars are already planned. If you have ideas for the future, please send those to us. We genuinely ignore them and just choose what we want to do anyways, but it will make you feel better about yourself. Right, Melissa?
Sounds good to me.
Okay. So, point 1. Melissa, talk to me about some technology. Anything new in the past 2 weeks?
Oh gosh, yes. Well, Tech Talk Law, we set up our G Suite account, and that has been extraordinarily helpful getting email. I've learned that you can do a blog from it. You can set up a YouTube channel, which we're doing for Tech Talk Law. Shared calendars. I think it's going to be all good. And then I set up a blog just this week for my law firm using blogger.com. So that's also a great tool. And then I got these nifty glasses, blue light blocking glasses for anyone who has been sitting at their computer all day long and needs to, get away from that headache. That might be a good, interesting little tool you can get from Amazon or your vendor of choice.
Do you wear contact lenses, Melissa?
I do, yeah. And glasses aren't
You put in
exactly...
contact lenses just to put on an extra pair of glasses?
Of course, yes. Well, my regular glasses are like 10 years old, so they really aren't going to block anything.
Have you tried the glasses over glasses or no?
No. And unfortunately, these glasses don't block you, Brian.
Maybe next week, the glasses over glasses, though. I really would like to try that.
Okay, that would be great. Yeah.
So,
I think I need a little more alcohol than just a beer for that.
Yeah, we'll work on that. Next webinar, by the way, is Cinco de Mayo. So we're gonna have a nice theme for that. So I have introduced a green screen to my Zoom conferences. It took me several hours to install, even though it was only supposed to take about 10 minutes. I have one that I hung from my ceiling, and I now have about 8 extra holes in my ceiling because I had to move it multiple times. So, as my grandfather used to say, measure twice, install once, but I didn't listen. I've tried an external microphone. I don't think it does anything. I tested that out earlier. And we recently in my office this week have signed up with NetDocuments to help us with Doc Manager. We used to use WorldDocs, and we were having all kinds of issues, and we've tried to go more cloud-based, and WorldDocs is server-based. So that's the fun that I've been experiencing thus far.
Yeah, lots of good new technology that we're doing in our work from home adventures, right?
Absolutely. Okay, so our guest of the hour is Miss Kimberly Cook. Kim is a family law attorney in Chicago. Kim, why don't you start by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Thank you for those who are joining us and who are listening in and some of us who are on Zoom. So I'm Kimberly Cook. I am a partner with the law firm of Schiller, Ducanto and Fleck in Chicago. I am also known on Instagram, on Twitter at Grown Girl Divorce, which we'll get into a little bit later as we talk through kind of the topic today. I've been married 12 years and I have 2 kids. So I have now locked the door where I'm at. So for those of you who are also homeschooling right now, you totally will get trying to manage, work and homeschool and, doing a Zoom call with the fear that one of your children are going to pop in at any moment. So, yes, and I'm so honored to be on Tech Talk Live, especially about this topic, because I am certainly an amateur and learning every day. And, but it's an exciting topic. And I think that there's so much to learn. And you guys were just talking about new things that you've learned within this last week that you're implementing. And so hopefully today people will share some of the things on the comment bar, any suggestions, what they found that has worked or new technology. And I'll share some things that I've learned along the way as well.
Excellent. So let's get to our first question. Are you wearing pants?
I am wearing pants. And I actually put on makeup and everything for you, just for you.
Wonderful.
Now we feel special.
Yeah, you should, see?
So what was the inspiration of the name Grown Girl Divorce? Where does that come from?
So, that's really interesting. When I was really thinking about like having an Instagram presence, or let me even say a social media presence, I wanted something that I thought would be kind of catchy and fun, but also, of course, got to the heart of what I do, which is, divorce and family law. And I remember, when I was a kid, my grandmother used to always, regardless of if I were, getting too sassy, or if, as she would say, you're too grown for your own britches. So it was kind of this, like a constant, you're being grown as in a grown up. And so what better way for me to kind of capture this idea of, I'm a grown up, but, girl doing, divorce work. So it just kind of worked where it was, grown girl divorce, and it's just kind of stuck from there.
So
it's
this
really
is
similar, because I tend to get people telling me to grow up. And so I think it probably goes hand in hand with what you just said.
Well, could be. Yes. That whatever way it works.
Now, this isn't your law firm's Instagram page or your social media.
That's right. And actually, it's funny, when you're just scrolling, I see a post that was actually done by my firm that I have shared on my own wall. I think that, so Schiller, Ducanto, and Fleck, as I mentioned, that's my firm. They have, the firm in and of itself has its own social media presence. But this is separate and apart from that. And for those who are kind of trying to figure out how best to manage social media, I think one of the things, especially if you work for a firm and not yourself, you have to ask yourself, how do you want to kind of design your personal brand that's not only consistent with firm messaging, but also represents you. So it's really important to me that this is not the firm. Certainly, I don't hide the fact that I'm a partner with Schiller, but I also, as a part of message, make it very clear that, this doesn't represent, the opinions of the firm. I'm certainly not offering legal advice. And, if on my Instagram page, and I think for all lawyers, and I've seen several therapists do it as well, it's important that you have a disclaimer somewhere on your social media, because you don't want to misrepresent any kind of opinions as advice. And I think that's important for all of us as lawyers, because, we've all been faced with, a client or someone saying, well, I heard you say, or you told me once, and, I certainly don't want someone who is looking at, my Instagram who says, well, on Instagram, you said, the following. And so it's really important to have that disclaimer, but it's also really important to determine whether or not you are representing yourself or representing, say, your firm as a part of your social media. This here, Grown Girl Divorce, is a personal brand as it relates to my social media.
Did your office have to, I'm sorry, go ahead, Melissa.
No, I was going to ask the same question. Does your office have to approve it?
Did my office have to approve what I post, or me kind of doing Grown Girl Divorce?
Both.
So they don't, I'll say this, I think you should check with, if you're with a firm, I think everybody should check with their management. My firm was very supportive of, I had started Grown Girl Divorce, and then when it started to kind of gain some traction, I went to, our committee and our executive director and just said, I've got this social media presence, and, I want to make sure that it's not going to be an issue. And the response was very receptive, but it was also very much of a, let's make sure that whatever you're communicating is not going to certainly undermine the firm, but two, that it doesn't reflect the firm's advice or opinions. They don't I don't send them my posts for approval, but I'm also very mindful at what I'm posting. So I don't have profanity, nudity, and again, I'm not giving legal advice, and so I really stay kind of in one lane, and that's the safe lane, so to speak, so that we shouldn't have any issues.
How did you choose Instagram as your platform of choice? You also mentioned Twitter.
Yeah, so that's really interesting because admittedly, I kind of bounced around, and there are so many platforms, right? So, some people are really good at LinkedIn. Other people are all, very good with Twitter. For me, I'm a visual person, and Instagram just kind of, spoke to me. I found it to be just something that I felt could reflect me, but then also it was easy enough for somebody who is not very tech savvy for me to kind of learn and do. Now, I'm also, I have a presence on LinkedIn, I have a presence on Twitter, and also a Facebook page. Those things are not my kind of primary kind of outreach on social media. With LinkedIn, I do post blogs, and I'll do some updates and articles. That one to me is more, about kind of written. It's a written medium, and so that takes a lot more time and energy, to be frank. Twitter, some people really like Twitter. I haven't found, again, personally speaking, Twitter to be where I kind of really found my voice, so to speak. So Instagram just kind of worked for me. But I suggest that people play around with a couple different things and see what you really enjoy, and then go from there. So Instagram may not be for everyone. I have really good friends who are very successful on Twitter, other people who, I look at their LinkedIn and, they're able to blog or post or, articles or do whatever, very well. That just wasn't, where my interest was.
I mean, this looks really time intensive. How much time do you actually devote to updating these? Because I mean, they're amazing depictions. It took me enough time just pulling together the one media for this particular happy hour.
So thank you for saying that. It's certainly a work in progress. I will say that there are a lot of tools out there now that are really, really helpful. I think the number one tool, at least for me, is Canva, Canva. And, for someone who's not a graphic designer or has any real kind of ability to really, without like outside help, kind of put things together, I think that Canva is great for this. And as far as, time commitment, what I would say is I find that on Sunday, what I do is I sit down, for about 2 hours, and I write out for the week, like, here's the content. And then from there, then I build the actual image. And then that way it's already done for the week. So every night I'm not trying to like come up with something creative and then try to build it. I do it on Sunday. And then that way it's a done deal. Now, throughout the week, if things change or something pops up, then sure, I'll do kind of a quick post. But I also use pretty much the same like templates, and then I just have to post the content in. I like that because that gives the page more of a uniform look, one, but then two, it's also easier. So as you're scrolling down to some of my older posts, you'll see that when I first really started, I had kind of the lighter shade of pinks, and the fonts were just kind of varying and different. And again, you'll see, that this was really me like trying out a couple of different things, what I liked visually, what I thought worked, what didn't work. But then as you scroll up to more of the recent posts, you'll see that I really landed on the darker and brighter pink, white lettering, and then a very kind of consistent font. And to me, again, it was all really about having a uniform and consistent brand, because the hope is that when people are scrolling through their Instagram, it's now getting to a point, hopefully, where it's some sort of recognition where, oh, that's Kimberly oh, that's Grown Girl Divorce.
Mhm.
I recognize that font, I recognize that color, and that, I think, helps with, one, increasing followers, but two, making sure that your brand and imaging are consistent.
Kim, in terms of trial and error, so you realize that certain colors are better, certain fonts are better in terms of A, building your brand, but probably B, in getting more views and getting more interaction. I mean, isn't that the goal?
That is absolutely. I mean, and look, I'll be the first to admit that, like, you'll see, I've got less than 500 followers. And a part of that, though, was being very intentional. When I started, it was a private account because I was trying to learn. And then, of course, I then made it public. But I also, I'm not interested. I know there are a lot of services where you can pay people to kind of increase your followers overnight. And, and you get, like 5,000 followers overnight, 4,000 of which are these kind of robot generated, people in a bunch of spam. To me, these 493, if I go to my followers, I can promise you that I've either engaged with these people or I know them. So it was important to me that these are real people, and I want to grow and expand in that way. That being said, yes, a part of the kind of the consistency really is about, growing your audience and having, like, we all know what Coke, the Coke brand looks like. We all know what Nike looks like without the words being splashed across it. And so to me, again, it's all about kind of image and recognition, so that as your brand grows and develops, it's also consistent.
Have you had any problems with followers? And I say this intentionally because I have a Twitter account,
Mm-hmm.
and my posts on the Twitter account are related to my law practice. But it had been public, and I made it not public because I started getting a series of crazy messages that, while they weren't necessarily directed at me, they were extremely hypercritical and negative, and I didn't feel that they were appropriate.
So,
Speaking of which, Kim, we just got a tweet in here from Grown Guy Divorce. He wants to know what you're doing on Thursday.
see, it's people like that like, you have to be mindful of. So I ignore those. I don't respond. I delete. And to your point, Melissa, you know, look, in our business and what we do, we work with people who are very emotional, right? And I often ask myself, okay, how much am I sharing about where I work, where I live, who my children are, where I hang out? And so I had to be very careful with Grown Girl Divorce in really limiting the scope of how much exposure, at least for me, is too much exposure. Because the last thing I need is to be in court in a couple of weeks and some random person who happens to follow me on Instagram thinks that they know me or know my kids or my family, and so to me that's really disconcerting. So in like your direct messages, there are security features where you have to kind of allow someone to communicate with you, or they have to ask permission. I'm very strict about that. If there's some weirdo who's like, hi, and I click on their link and you can tell it's not a real person, or I look at things that they've posted and it makes me very uncomfortable, then I'm not interested in kind of engaging or communicating. The other thing is, I read all of the comments that are made, and if someone is making, comments where I feel are aggressive or inappropriate, I'm fine to unfollow and restrict, because, no one needs that kind of negativity. No one needs that, and to me, again, this is not intended to be a space where somebody is sitting at home and has 10 things to say about who I am or the work that I'm doing. It's not worth it. So I'm very protective about just kind of, again, how much information I put out and, you know, who's kind of has real access to me.
I want to know a little bit more about the lessons you've learned. I mean, we have a lot of participants today who are probably interested in social media. And for those of us that do participate in it, you waste a lot of time initially, right?
Yeah.
And doing things, doing it wrong. So what are some tips you can give to the audience of lessons you've already learned to help everybody speed up their process?
You can't do everything, right? So you can't you can't say to yourself, okay, I'm going to do LinkedIn and I'm going to do Facebook and I'm going to do Twitter, and it's too much.
What about MySpace? Are you on MySpace?
Oh my gosh, that's telling both of our ages. No MySpace over here. But I think you have to pick one and get comfortable with that one first. And again, that was trial and error for me because I was trying to do everything at once and felt like, okay, if I'm great on all of these across the board, then, you know, wonderful. There are ways, of course, to kind of post things at the same time. So for example, if I put something on Instagram can, you know, immediately post it onto whether it's my Grown Girl Divorce Facebook page or to Twitter, depending on where I select. So then I'm not having to recreate additional information. Those things are helpful. It doesn't have that same capability, at least that I've found with LinkedIn. But again, LinkedIn to me is a different audience. And so I wouldn't take the same kind of imagery and content that I have on Instagram and have it translate over to LinkedIn. So I think first lesson, decide which outlet works for you and work on that one. Then the second one is to really recognize, you know, who your audience is, and that each of these platforms comes off in a different way. Again, you know, Instagram is visual. This is not the content. This is not the platform if you're interested in trying to put a blog in the comment section. You can certainly link to your blog or you can, you know, put snippets, but most people are not going to Instagram to actually read the full blog. They might click on the picture that directs them to a website or to your LinkedIn profile, but trying to cram in too much written content that's just not, that's really not a good idea. That's different than say LinkedIn, where you have the ability, and I think people are more, the audience is a different audience such that they are reading things like articles, like blogs on LinkedIn. And then Twitter, of course, you know, you only have so many characters on Twitter. So if you're somebody who, you know, you like to kind of rapid fire and kind of response and retweet, if that's your space, then work that space. But you have to know that, you know, different platforms are for a different audience and they serve a different purpose.
It seems like your audience is the potential client. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I mean, you know, yes, and you know, admittedly, I struggled with my colors are pink. It's Grown Girl Divorce. Am I going to really hurt myself when it comes to attracting kind of, you know, anyone other than female clients? And the reality of it is, no. One, you know, when people are looking to get a divorce, they're looking to get a divorce. Does that mean that that's, you know, that I'm going to change my Instagram feed? No, it's not. So, you know, I wanted to focus in, there are a lot of kind of the post-divorce accounts out there. And I felt like, you know, where those, you know, accounts or messaging about pre-divorce or in the middle of divorce, things that, you know, you're going through right now in this space. There are certainly great sites out there that talk about, you know, surviving divorce, moving past divorce, you know, co-parenting post-divorce. They all are fantastic. That just wasn't my space. My space was really about addressing listen, we're in the middle of this thing and we can figure it out. We can get through it. And that's what that's really my intention and my focus. And it just so happened that, pink I find to be a great color. I think it's both feminine and it's strong, and it just
It suits you
resonated
very well.
And I like it.
So to add on to that, so I have a fairly active social media presence too.
You do.
I try to, but it's very time consuming. And so initially my goal was I need to appeal to potential clients. And more now, what I'm finding is you're not having the one-on-one with the client. So one of the focuses that I have done now, and I want to see what you've done about this, I'm starting to appeal more to referral sources too. So you may be writing something that isn't necessarily for the potential client. Maybe you're writing something that appeals to a marriage counselor in your city, or a forensic accountant, or it's a friend of a friend because you're following somebody and their best friend is telling them what's going on, and they say, hey, there's this lawyer who I keep seeing online and blah, 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 blah. And, how far do you go? To what extent do you make those 2, 3, 4, 8 levers of Kevin Bacon or whatever they call it?
Yeah. So, the thing is, I follow several therapists, right? And,
not Jennifer Smith, because that's mine, right?
No,
Okay.
no.
Sorry, Melissa.
And so the reason I started to kind of engage and follow, one, because I like their content, right? So I follow people who I like their content, and I feel like, I found myself commenting on people's content. But it also then, when I was posting things, I started to get whether, comments or like direct messages from other therapists or other, people who do mediation, who whatever I posted really resonated with them. So if you scroll down, so on Mondays, you'll see that every week I start with a quote, and, it's, there's always a quote post. And I like that because one, it's kind of like Motivation Monday, and it starts the week really well, but also because to me, it speaks to not only say the potential client of, hey, this is what we're going through, we can kind of get through this together, but it also other therapists or other people who are in this space of trying to motivate other individuals to think about things that they're going through in their lives. So to me, starting out the week with really jumping in on the Motivation Monday allowed me to directly address, say, potential clients, but also, I think it resonated again with therapists or mental health providers who are also kind of having that same similar message.
Do you post tacos on Tuesday?
I don't do Taco Tuesday. That's all you have at it.
Okay. So is there a certain number of posts that you strive to obtain over the course of a week, A, and B, is there a strategy to the time that you post something?
So yes, to both. First, I try to post at least 3 times a week. Now, when I say post, that's new and actual, postings that you see. If I can, though, on a daily basis in my IG stories, I do try to, on a daily basis, update on the IG story. And the reason I do that is that just keeps, the post active, but it's really easy. You can, share something that really resonated with you that somebody else posted, and it uploads to your story. So that's a very quick and easy way to have engagement with somebody else, but also it keeps your site also kind of updated and active. Then again, 3 times a week, I try to then upload at a minimum the posts that I have created on Sunday, and I try to space them out. So whether it's, I always post on Monday. So Sometimes it's Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Sometimes it's Monday, Tuesday, and then Thursday. But here's the other thing. I know a lot of people, there are a lot of scheduler like apps, and admittedly, I haven't found one that I loved. And I think a part of it is that for me, I'm very aware and cognizant of like what's going on in the world. And I don't ever want my post to come off as being tone deaf, right? So, we've got, I don't know, say there's, God forbid, some sort of, there was a mass shooting in Nova Scotia, a couple days ago. I'm just very aware of like not having then, a post I find that like came out unfortunately at a weird time. So I'm just not yet comfortable with having just like the rote scheduled post. It works for a lot of people. It's just not my space and something that I found that works for me. So
MySpace again, it keeps coming up. I mean,
sorry. Sorry. And then as far as
time of day.
Time of day, that's a tricky one because I've played with a couple different things. And Instagram, you can look at your site's analytics and you can figure out, okay, when are people really like checking out my post and what's really the best time to post? And frankly, you know what? Maybe on one week, posting at 9:35 on Mondays happens to be kind of the sweet spot. But then the next week you look at, the analytics and it says actually, maybe it's 11:30 p.m. What I will say though, right now, any time of day, frankly, is good right now because everybody's home and everybody is, on some form of social media. So if there's never been a time, I think, better than right now to kind of put your foot in the water, it's now because everybody is actively engaged and everybody is, whether it's Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, everybody's at home, everybody is working. I see there's a comment that's like, when do I sleep? It's funny. Again, this sounds like a lot more work than it is, but it is a lot of work. But I think the best thing to do, again, is to organize it, right? So carve out some time and say, okay, this is what I'm working on. And then I'm gonna, get this done for the week. There's another kind of question about, a podcast. Listen, I'm all for it. I'm trying to work on that too. But I also need to figure out how to clone myself. Because,
So Kim, you made a good point about stories. So for those participating who don't know what the story is, so you have your regular posts that stay there, almost like a sticky, where it's always going to be in your profile. Then you have stories which run for 24 hours, and you made a really good point. So what I try to do is I have a series where I post at different times as different things come up, but you also don't want to be nauseating with your posts.
right.
We all have those social media whores out there. They just post the stupidest things and
All the time.
like, you either want to like unfriend them, but you don't want to hurt anybody's feelings nowadays with the unfriending and and so or you unfollow. What I have found is the stories are a good way to do that. I may have a business thing here or there, and then occasionally I'll put a personal thing into my story, and it also shows that you're a human being. And so it's a good way for people to see a glimpse in your life. So I think that balance was an excellent point for everybody participating today. You don't have to have everything as a post to be participating.
I think stories are huge, and I agree with you. I think it's everything doesn't have to be a post. You then don't inundate people. But we talked earlier about kind of the how to curate and how to kind of get consistency of brand. Decide what you want your Instagram to look like if you're doing Instagram. And then from there, if something doesn't necessarily kind of fit within that space, throw it in the story and it's fine. And then that way it's not necessarily on the post or, on your actual page, but you have it up. And so I think, you get the best of both. but yes, it's very true with like personal stuff, you know, with family, with kids. If I don't want it on the actual feed, then I'll put it in a story, and then I know, okay, great, it'll be up for 24 hours, and then it's gone. So I think there's real value to the stories.
Kim, what does it mean if somebody wants to slide up into your DMs?
So direct message, and you know, it's they want to communicate with you, you know, kind of directly, right? So it's kind of, you know, social media way of the email format, and so you'll have people who will want to DM you to connect. And again, I think you've got to be very careful about who you respond to, who you connect with, especially because you don't know, you know, who individuals are. You'll see though on my page, I think this is me manipulating it. Yeah. So on my page, you see, you know, Kimberly Cook, divorce and family lawyer. Now, yesterday, this is the link for the webinar for today, but generally it'll have my like firm address or Chicago, Illinois. But I don't put much more than that. If someone is actually looking to, you know, retain me, then again, you see Kimberly A. Cook, you can put my name in Google and then the firm's information will come up, or it's on LinkedIn. So this is the other thing. If you go to my LinkedIn, which you don't have to do, my LinkedIn actual email kind of profile does not come up with Kimberly A. Cook. It comes up / grown girl divorce. So across varying platforms, you want to make sure that whatever, if you're not using your own name, just make sure that you're connecting so that when people click on Kimberly A. Cook, either grown girl divorce, you know, pops up, or my image. But you want to be mindful that over here, you're Kimberly A. Cook, somebody else, somewhere else, you're just Kim Cook, somewhere else, you're grown girl divorce. Everything should be very consistent.
Now, what if somebody forgets the N in grown girl and they go to grow girl? And
Well, then they won't get me.
Right. What if they arrive at like a dispensary or something? I guess we just live with that if that's a consequence.
Yeah, yes. But, you know, I try to, again, in emails and whatever have you, I do try to connect that. Let's see. So there's a question. Do I have a personal? I do. Okay. So I do have a personal, it's a very good question. I do have a personal Instagram account that is private. And so if people try to, and I've had people who try to follow me here and then go over and ask me, and I don't do that because that one really is my personal with my children. And so I'm very protective in that way. The same with Facebook. I have a private Facebook account, and then I have like a professional one as well. You know, the unfortunate reality is that, you know, when people want to do harm, they will figure out a way to do harm to and so I try not to focus as much on, you know, oh my gosh, you know, if I'm posting this, then somebody's gonna do something, because the reality of it is I've had, you know, clients' spouses who I'm more concerned about than some Yahoo who's on, you know, following me on Instagram, who's kind of rude. So I just have to be kind of mindful. But I do keep my private one private. And then I have the grown girl divorce one separately.
And you have to double and triple check all of your privacy
settings
measures. I tell you, I have a client that consistently looks at my Facebook account, and it is a private account, and somehow she thinks she's accessing everything. It's
yeah. Well, and again, I mean, you know, I think the thing with social media though, depending on how much you are connecting with people, or people feel like they're connecting with you, you know, people do start to feel like they know you. And so you do, I think, have to be mindful of that and be careful of the things, you know, that you're posting. But, you know, the other thing is, you know, I have professional colleagues, not at my firm, but at other firms, who I know are following me on Instagram, and I'm completely flattered. I think it's great. I follow some other people at other firms, but I had to be very clear that, you know, my Instagram is not for you then to reference it in a pleading, or not for you to, there's a line here. And, you know, again, these opinions are my own. So you know, printing out something that I would have posted on my Instagram and saying, you know, Judge, see, Miss Cook said that, then, you know, those two things aren't aligned, and they're not the same. The other
Isn't
thing,
everything you say at this point a learned treatise? I mean, realistically,
is this a what?
isn't everything that you post at this point like a learned treatise? I mean, it's a hearsay exception because it's
Well, but
you
I
know
mean,
what you're posting.
listen, but that's also, I have to be careful. But, you know, and Melissa, while you've got this one up, because I want to speak to this one in just a second. You know, I think, again, with social media, I think you just have to be careful and be mindful in knowing what you're posting, because we all know that, you know, people will try in whatever way they can to, you know, use it against you. So
It's easy to offend too. I mean, that's
for sure,
you know.
for sure. So the other thing to keep in mind when you're posting on social media, regardless of whether, again, Instagram, Twitter, again, going to the disclaimer, however, keep in mind that everybody that may be following you doesn't live in your state. So when you're posting things, especially as it relates to, and I try to be very careful about posting kind of specific, you know, family law statutes or references, because what applies in Illinois doesn't apply in Texas or New York. And so you don't want people to then take that and run with it. So for example, I posted today, today, about courts still operating, and someone immediately posted and was like, you know what? We can't do divorce filings and judgments, you know, in New York. And, you know, and my response to her was, well, I'm sure you guys can, you know, still kind of be doing the, you know, the footwork and finalizing terms and paperwork and whatever. Because what you don't want is to speak as if everybody who is following you is in your state, especially if you are, you know, referencing, you know, any kind of statute from your state. And if you are, then I would definitely say, you know, preface it by saying, in Illinois, you know, maintenance, formerly known as alimony, is the following. In New York, but I would never post anything that's kind of a blanket statement. Again, this is, you know, as a lawyer, I think we have to be especially careful with that.
Unauthorized practice of law, all
Yes.
of the fun ethics
The
rules.
elevator advice, and so right. You
Yes.
can direct people places, but you don't want to even answer questions. If
Not at
somebody
all.
says,
Not
you
at
know, I have
all.
a question. How I usually say something like, email me or send me a direct message, or
For
give me
sure.
your phone number, and if it's something I can help you with, you know, I'm happy to, something like that. You don't ever want to be in that position.
You don't ever want to be in that position. But, you know, again, so you want disclaimer. You don't want to give legal advice. You don't want anybody to feel like you're giving legal advice at all. And I will say, again, Grown Girl Divorce is not Schiller, Ducanto, and Flax Fee. For those individuals who will, you know, who are either solos or are going to be managing their firm's social media, you want to make sure that you have that distinction that, you know, this is not legal advice, even though it's coming from, you know, whatever law offices. This is, you know, let's be very clear about that.
Or endorsing any kind of position, right? I mean, neutrality is the key too.
Yeah.
You don't want to come out and be political. You don't want to side and show that you're Democratic or Republican, or right. I mean,
Well,
Or retweeting certain tweets or sharing Facebook posts.
Yeah, but I think, you know, if that's your space, if that's, you know, if you've made it very clear in your practice and you know, and who you are, that you know, these are your opinions, or these, you know, this is who you represent or who you won't represent, then go right ahead and do that. I just don't do that. So, thank you so much for joining us, Rachel. I hope you'll follow me if you haven't already at Grown Girl Divorce on Instagram.
So I guess
Speaking of which, hold on, Melissa, this is very important.
yes.
What is your favorite filter, or are you more of a hashtag no filter kind of girl?
Oh, that's a go-to. I'm more of a hashtag person.
Okay. Sorry, Melissa.
Yeah.
No, I was going to ask, have you seen results? I mean, have you had potential clients come in and say, I saw your Instagram, I follow you. Have you had an uptick in interest in the firm or in you as your practice? How is this actually translating to marketing?
Right. So there's one, I think that, marketing in general, I think is a marathon. It's not a sprint. And so I think that there are definitely people who have now reached out who said to me, oh, hey, a girlfriend said I should follow you on Instagram because I'm going through, a divorce, or I'm considering divorce. Or I've had, other clients or former clients who said, hey, I was on Instagram and I saw your picture come up and I think this is great and I'm going to definitely follow you. And for me, it's really about one, yes, potential clients, but two, I think that the people who are interested in like retaining me, this gives them another window into who I am. And so what I found is, potential clients who come in, I direct them to Instagram if they didn't already, kind of say, oh, hey, are you on social media or whatever? Because this gives a little bit different perspective than just say my bio on my website, or they read an article in the ABA. So yes, I've had, potential clients who have reached out and have said, hey, you know what, this is really cool. Somebody else told me about it, or a friend told me about it. And, and now I want to, follow up. This is the firm's website. So the firm has just started on Instagram. Our marketing really does more so with LinkedIn, and we've got a very good presence on LinkedIn. That has been the audience that's worked well.
Kim, you got a problem. Leslie has totally jacked your pink color. What do we do about that?
Okay, I know you meant that in the nicest of ways. So if you read it, so Leslie passed away last year, and this is
typical what Brian does.
Yeah.
Brian should field his questions in advance, but typically Brian doesn't do that.
It's all right. So yes, this is pink for, she passed away of breast cancer, and we were, in remembrance of Leslie. And so we all, we posted pictures of us in pink. So that's why. But here's, while Melissa's right there, again, going to brand recognition, you will see that even on my firm site, I have a pink shirt on. And, so I try to be consistent with coloring. So again, it's across the board, as much as I can in my marketing, where you will see, hopefully some shade of pink.
Well, and everybody else I notice is in black and white. And
yeah, those are videos. So those scrolling down in videos, I think on our bios, though, a couple of people have different colors. But yeah, I like the pop of color. I think it works out very well. But yeah, so this is the firm's site, and we are definitely trying to build on Instagram presence. But the firm started with LinkedIn and has done very well on LinkedIn.
So when you work on social media, is there any other tips you have for users in terms of end goals, or what the focus should be? Any other advice for the participants?
Yeah, you have to decide for yourself, what your goal is. Some people are, their social media is really a targeted campaign to bring in clients, right? And you can tell that because a lot of their posts are ad space. That's, again, I'm not doing an ad for the firm. but if that's your target and that's your goal, then that would make the most sense. If it's about kind of getting out information and showing off your writing ability, then find the medium that works. Again, I think something like a LinkedIn would be great. For me, being able to show a different side of who I am as a lawyer, and again, kind of getting out messaging about the process, getting through the process. For those individuals who may not be able to retain me, it's really more of a, here's information, here are things to think about, and, kind of a positive messaging. Is the goal always to retain clients, to get people in the door? Yes. To expand my own exposure in the larger kind of market? Yes. But frankly, I enjoy doing this. I'm having a lot of fun, and it's kind of a creative outlet for me. And so that's really why I continue to do it.
Do you follow the Beebs, and are you hoping that he either comments on one of your pictures or does something to give you some street cred? Because I think everybody wants Bieber to be participating in their.
See, that's really funny. I'm not a Bieber fan. I never have been. I know that's going to be shocking to a lot of people, but
no, I get it. That makes one of us.
Yeah. No, there are some people that, I got to tell you, if they comment or they like or they post something, I get very much like, oh my gosh, they saw my post. One of those people, of course, you, Brian, of course, Melissa, I'm so, excited when you guys post or, comment on something of mine. Laura Wasser, she's commented a couple of times. She's a follower, and, that's awesome. And, again, I think that I also, though, really appreciate people who post or comment on my post that really spoke to them in whatever way, and in whatever way they think, help them through whatever situation or whatever questions they have. So to me, that's great. There are two women. There was a picture right before there. There are two women. There's Gabrielle Hartley and Susan Guthrie. They are really, truly rock stars in social media world. I've learned a lot just by following them and seeing what they do and how they're very authentic across their brands. And so I would say if you're looking for people to kind of check out them as well, they've got they have great social media. Laura Wasser is another one. Hers is a bit different. She does not post anything to deal with family law. A lot of Laura's stuff really is about her. And, she does have a podcast, but you'll see she has a lot more kind of, personal pictures. And then she, talks about or post things when she's going to be on a show. So you just have to decide for yourself what you want and what your goal is. And then go from there.
And all the hashtags.
And hashtag, they do make a difference. And so to me, I try to be strategic about which hashtags I'm using and when. But, I also don't do like 50 hashtags. Some people, have like a ton of hashtags. At most I'm at like 9 or 10, and that's most. I usually
What's your favorite hashtag? Because I always see Melissa's posts, and for some reason, she always writes hashtag roast beef, and I don't understand it. So I guess that's her favorite. What is your favorite?
Well, that's a good question. I think, I always hashtag anything I'm posting with divorce, because again, if somebody's searching for divorce, you want to have that hashtag. But I also, I use women lawyers a lot. I hashtag things that are going on just generally. So right now, a lot of my posts, you'll see a hashtag COVID. You'll see, hashtag Thankful Thursday or Motivation Monday.
Taco Tuesday.
I will make a post for a Taco Tuesday. I'm going to work on it this weekend just for you. But yeah, you see, I don't have a lot of hashtags because I don't think you need, like 50 hashtags.
And just so everyone knows, hashtags even if somebody's not connected with you and they're searching for that, where they follow a certain hashtag, your post will come up in their feed. So it's a way to get more followers and to get more interaction, even from people who are outside of your account or your direct relationship.
Yep.
And it's not just Instagram.
It's not just Instagram, it's across all social media platforms. So LinkedIn is very good about suggesting, certain hashtags for you depending on what you've posted. Of course, Twitter, but it's a very good way to connect with other people who are also, writing, around the same topic.
Kim, I want to thank you.
Thank
You did a fantastic job. You're a superstar.
Oh.
I think everybody would agree you look amazing in pink.
Thanks.
And I know your husband, so I think I'm allowed to say that. Okay.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you
everybody?
guys for having me.
Absolutely.
I appreciate it.
Okay.
Thanks for everybody who joined. And, I don't know if my colleague is still there. I have to shout him out because he's always so supportive of me. Let's see, I can't see yes, he is. So, one of my partners, Jason Sposey, he is like, always so super supportive of me from the firm. So I have to give him a shout out. So thanks, Jason.
Jason, what's your favorite hashtag? I'm just kidding. Melissa has you muted. I can't control that. That's all her this time.
You're Brian. Next time you're muted. Mm-hmm.
Fine. I'm better
Yes.
off. I wouldn't make
Thanks,
comments
guys.
before.
No,
Thank you, everybody. Tune in 2 weeks. We're going to have another good topic, and it's going to be Cinco de Mayo. And yes, we will be dressed for the occasion. Okay?
That'll be exciting.
Oh boy. Here we go.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of the week, and we will music to play out. That will work on that for next time. Go check out techtalklaw.com. Follow Melissa and I on all of our social medias, and Kim, and any other questions. Follow us, write us, slide up into our DMs, and everything else. Thank you.